I'm Jennifer Jackman. I'm a professor of politics, policy, and international relations, and I'm coordinator of our intern programs. On behalf of our department, I want to thank you for joining us to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Congressional Internship Program. The many successes of our students and those who made this program possible. I'm joined today by my colleagues in the department. I just want to introduce them to you briefly. Professor Dan Malcare, who's chair of the department, Professor Vanessa Rouget, who's acting chair of the department, Professor Coughlin, who's my partner in the Congressional Internship Program, Professor Connie Sazazwan, who's director of the Bates Center, Professor Guy Bellino over here, Professor Emeritus Rich Levy, who we're going to be honoring today, and last but not least, Emily Hanlon, who's our administrative assistant for the department. Today is also a celebration of the contributions of political science majors to public service in the Commonwealth and beyond. And there's no better way for us to start this program than with one of our own, Senator Joan Lovely, a 2006 political science graduate of Salem State University. After Salem State, Senator Lovely earned her JD, served on the Salem City Council for 15 years, and since 2013 has represented the 2nd Essex District in the State Senate, where she serves as Assistant Majority Leader and Senate Chair of the Joint Committee on Rules. Please join us in welcoming Senator Lovely.
Thank you, Professor, and good morning, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here this morning to celebrate this really wonderful event and the Rich Levy Congressional Internship Program. I'd like to thank everyone gathered here today. President Keenan, I am flying the colors today. Thank you. Hawthorne Hotel owner and state rep and former state rep, former Congressman Mike Harrington. The organizing committee co-chairs, Michael Evans and Cynthia McGurran, thank you. Our esteemed political science faculty, thank you to many of you. I had a few of you when I was at Salem State from 2000 to 2006, finishing my undergrad, so thank you. I wouldn't be standing here today without all of you. And to all our current and former students and future students, just so pleased to be here. A couple of other folks I would like to recognize is a little known fact, maybe decades later, but back in the 1980s, I worked for he wasn't the congressman yet, but Attorney John Tierney. So really pleased to be here with you, John. And I want to credit Tierney, Kalis, Adamopoulos, and Lucas for propelling me back into school and then into law school. I got a really great experience working in that law firm. So thank you, John, for that. I also want to recognize my wonderful colleague and friend, former State Representative Jamie Belcito, who is here also today and works closely with my office in the DC on maternal mental health. Thank you, Jamie. And I want to recognize Hannah Levine from Representative Cruz's office. As we know, Rep. Cruz just welcomed a brand new son last week, in addition to his daughter and his wife. Everyone's doing well, so welcome, Hannah. As I had said, I came to Salem State as a young student. I actually was at Salem State from 78 to 79 for 1 year, one school year. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to be in life. So I left. And I came back in 2000 and I got that done. And again, I just want to say how thankful I am to the department and to this university, college at the time, for really encouraging me and helping me get that education done that I so desperately wanted, but had postponed. And Professor Levy was a mentor, and he was one of my greatest academic supporters. So I know that when I was there, you were always there for me. You always had lent an ear, even though I didn't have you as a professor at the time. You did my capstone, which was so incredibly important to me. And you really, really helped me. So I'm just so very, very grateful. You empowered me to achieve my goals, encouraged me to my dedication to public service. I was a city councilor at the time, and you really helped me kind of round that and really understand what that really meant for me. I'm pleased to see that's the same dedication being fostered and nurtured in today's political science students. And the essence of public service is ultimately, as we know, about helping people. Past, present, and future students involved in the Congressional Internship program have shown that they have the passion and resolve to help when help is needed. And I will tell you, help is needed every day. Every day when our phone rings or when emails come in, our constituents are looking for help, and we're there to assist them in any way that we can. So Professor Levy, throughout your career, you have made a marked impact in the lives of countless students, and I'm honored and humbled to say that I am one of those students. Thank you for all that you have done and continue to do on behalf of our school community, our future political leaders, and public servants. Congratulations and happy anniversary. And my apologies that I have to run to Beverly, where I have an 8:30 meeting waiting for me, so I'm going to dash, but just want to say thank you. I wouldn't be standing here again today to address all of you without all of you, so thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lovely. I would now like to introduce Cynthia McGarren and Mike Evans, who are co-chairs of today's event and our fundraising campaign. Both have been longtime supporters of the political science, now politics, policy, and international relations department, and the Congressional Internship Program in particular. And both are actually former congressional staff. During a break in her 32-year career at Salem State University, Cynthia was an integral part of the district office of Congressman Tierney, also a political science graduate from Salem State, when he was first elected. At Salem State, Cynthia served in many positions, most recently as Vice President of Institutional Advancement and Executive Director of the Salem State Foundation, position she held from 2004 until 2019 when she retired. In addition to helping us build the financial foundation for the Congressional Internship and being just an advocate of our department in many ways, one of Cynthia's great gifts to our department was introducing us to Mike Evans. Mike, a 1976 graduate of the Political Science Department, also went on to graduate from Harvard School of Law. Mike worked for 27 years in the U.S. Senate, most recently as Chief Counsel for the U.S. Senate Finance Committee. Mike has become an integral part of our department. We keep drawing him in more and more. Each semester, he gives a talk to our students about what's happening in Congress. He has lunch with our congressional interns, including many of them in the room when they're in DC, and he now teaches our department's U.S. Congress course. Mike has generously supported our Congressional Internship Program in many ways for many years. We are deeply appreciative of both Cynthia and Mike, and please join me in welcoming Dr. Mike Evans.
Thanks, Jennifer, for that kind introduction and for everything that you've done for the internship program. And it's great to be in a room with so much energy and so much Salem State energy. So we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of the formal internship program, and I'll get to that, the formal, a little bit later. But it started when Senator John Kerry agreed to establish an internship every summer in his office for a Salem State student. And God bless Senator Kerry for doing that. And thanks to the generosity of people in this room, alumni, various businesses and associations, we have maintained that program for 20 years. And in particular, it's been supported by by Michael Harrington and the Michael Harrington Endowment, and by the Rich Levy Congressional Internship Fund. And in each case, the stipends go to support a Salem State student in Washington, D.C. Sometimes we have one, sometimes we have two, and that's great, for the summer, working in one of the congressional offices. Sometimes it's Senator Warren, it's Senator Ed Markey, it's one of the members of Congress, and we have students here who will talk about that, but it's been a great program that has made a difference for the students, and because it made a difference for the students, it's making a difference for the country. And now I'll introduce our president, uh, John Keenan, who is the 14th president of Salem State. We want to thank him for his support of the internship program, including his personal support, and also a note that as a former state rep, he has a particular appreciation for interns and internship programs and what that can bring both to the students and to the community. President Keenan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here. Everybody's taking care of the introductory remarks for me. All the thank yous. It's a great audience. I want to thank our political science faculty, of course, and certainly the chairs of this event, a former congressman, Tierney and Harrington, and the namesake for our internship program. Yeah, this is a sweet spot for me. This is probably one of the easiest meetings I go to. This is what I do. This is who I've been for 30 years, right? So this is fantastic. I will tell you, I had the good fortune of having an internship when I was a young kid in college with Attorney General Bellotti, right? Who is, I think, just celebrated what, his 95th or 96th birthday? Was it 100? Was it 100? Yeah, 100. And he still looks the same, right? I saw him at an event. I still go annually to a regular event for former reps, and he showed up at that just last winter, and he still looked the same. Still had that great tan too. But it did inspire me to go on to law school, along with a mentor that I had at that time, Judge Zoll, who has also since passed away, and Judge Doyle, all those folks that took care of me in terms of informal and formal internships that I had, and really inspired me to go into a life of public service, which has been almost 30 years now, 10 years as a lawyer for the city of Salem and a prosecutor, 10 years as a state representative, and now just heading into my 10th year at Salem State. And there was also one person in this room, Michael Goldman, who got me to run for state senate back, I think, in 1994. I lost, right? But developed a love for politics and getting involved and making a difference. And I tell people all the time, and you know this too, Michael, losing an election doesn't mean you've lost, right? You've actually learned quite a bit. And you go on, and I lost another one after that, and I finally won. And served for 10 years, and unopposed for 10 years. It was quite nice. So it's all about civic engagement and service. And I apologize for being late because I was participating in civic engagement. I am the president, the chair of the Salem Partnership, and we were meeting just upstairs talking about some of the things that are impacting the city of Salem. I also happen to be chair of the Council of Presidents, and I'm chair of NECM, which is the Northeast College and Universities of Northeast Massachusetts. I'm chair of the Technology Innovation Center over at the Cummings Center as well. So we don't just ask people to do it. We actually try to lead by example as well. So excited to be here with you today. You have a Meet the Moment sign up here, and I have to mention this as well, because a big part of Meet the Moment is experiential learning, which are really internships. Peter Mazarias is in the room as well back here. I want to thank you for showing up, and Cynthia McGurn, because they set the foundation for this most recent campaign, our third. I think, Peter, am I correct? Was it what was the first campaign? 300,000?
You're correct, John.
Right? 300,000, what year?
Cynthia, what year?
Yeah.
I knew he was going to do that. 1982.
1982. And then we had our 10,001 Reasons campaign with Cynthia, which was 25 million. When did we finish that? Was it 14, 13, 14? 16?
Thank you, Cheryl.
So we went from 300,000 to 25 million. We anticipated going to 50 million in this most recent campaign, Meet the Moment. But we had such success, and Cheryl leads our team, and many of our advancement folks are here today. We had such success early on in the silent phase, raising about $40 million, that we raised the limit to $75 million. And I have no doubt we will sprint through the tape on that as well. So, and a big portion of that is really about experiential learning, and internships are a big part of that, and civic engagement. We consider ourselves the civic engagement university, proudly. And what that really means is you're not only going to get a great education, right? We're not only the opportunity for everybody here on the North Shore to get a great job, but we also expect you to be an engaged citizen. Perhaps more important today than ever. It's an extraordinary time. We have a former president under 2 different indictments in 2 different states, and also currently the leading candidate for the Republican Party. And so it's a really important time for everybody to be engaged and get involved. Doesn't mean you have to run for office, like some of us, right, Jamie? Doesn't mean you have to run for office, although we're extremely proud. We have the first lieutenant governor from a public higher ed institution in the Commonwealth, and Kim Driscoll. But we have many people working up the State House, and I was up there Tuesday actually lobbying for in-state tuition for undocumented students here in the Commonwealth. That's what it means. Be an engaged citizen, and those are the tools that our faculty and the political science department, and frankly our faculty across the whole campus, give you those tools that when you leave there, you will be an engaged citizen. Not only voting, but again, getting involved, whether it's homelessness or whether it's climate change or any other issues that really move you, that you'll be involved with that. So I want to say from the bottom of my heart, because this is the one that I contribute to. Every week, $50 comes out of my check to go to this internship fund, right? And everybody on campus tries to contribute to this in the way that we can. This one is really important insofar as it gives the opportunity for people to learn about government and public affairs, but also hopefully light that spark that you might run for office, or you might go work in a congressional office or a state rep's office, or work for the lieutenant governor, or any of those sorts of things. And we're really, really, really proud of that. So Michael, from the bottom of my heart, I just want to say thank you. And as you know, every time anybody runs for office in the city of Salem on the North Shore, I said, have you had breakfast with Michael yet? Have you sat down to coffee with Michael yet, right? Because he will give you the inside scoop. He's read 6 papers by the time you sit down with him, right, at 7 a.m., and is just a true gem for our society, for our community here in Salem, but really the greater North Shore, and wonderful that he's been able to bring this Hawthorne Hotel back to where it is. I will let you know, Michael, I started the day here at 7:15 at the Hawthorne Hotel. I finished the day at 8 p.m. here last night at the Hawthorne Hotel. I will be back tonight at the Hawthorne Hotel, and I'll be here again Sunday at the Hawthorne Hotel for our brunch for its alumni weekend as well. So again, thank you all for all your commitment to this program. Thank you to everybody in the room who has donated and participated, and thank you most importantly, Mr. Harrington, for your contribution, and not only to this, but to the North Shore region in general. So thank you. And thank you, Michael.
So as Jennifer mentioned in introducing me earlier, I recently completed 27 years of service in the United States Senate, including serving as chief counsel to 2 Senate committees, most recently the Senate Finance Committee, and helping to pass the Inflation Reduction Act. It all started in 1975 when I was a junior at Salem State and was working as an intern for Congressman Michael Harrington in the Salem Post Office in Riley Plaza, a couple of blocks from here. And I heard that there were internships in Washington, D.C. And I asked about it, and Michael encouraged me to apply, and I made the cut. Although it wasn't that hard to make the cut because because he had about 20 interns in Washington, D.C. Anyway, I joined that group of interns in 1975 in Washington, D.C. Between my junior and senior year. It was an interesting summer. Among other things, that year, there was a controversy about the liberal firebrand congressman from Massachusetts, Michael Harrington, who had recently revealed the U.S. government's involvement in the illegal overthrow of the democratically elected government of Chile. And that was a big issue in Washington, along with many other things. So I joined a dozen or 20 interns. Michael actually had a special office assigned to him in Washington, D.C. because he had so many interns working there. And they weren't like other interns. They were doing important work. They were doing substantive work. I drafted a bill that summer. I recall it had to do with establishing a New England compact to deal with offshore energy resources. And I actually helped to draft that bill, working with House Legislative Counsel. How we worked Vermont into the offshore oil, New England offshore oil compact escapes me, but we figured out how to do it. The Harrington office was full of drive and conviction. That's why he attracted the best staff on Capitol Hill, including some people in this room. I see Larry Zabar, among others, who worked for Michael. And his internship program made a great difference to dozens and dozens of students who got their first heady experience in government working as interns for the great progressive firebrand congressman from the 6th District of Massachusetts, Michael Harrington. And since then, he has continued his legacy by generously funding an endowment to support Salem State interns in Washington, D.C. Cynthia?
Yes, and we're very, very excited this morning to announce that we have broken the $100,000 mark for the Michael J. Harrington DC Internship Endowment Fund. So it's now my pleasure to ask Dr. Peter Mazareas to come to the podium. Peter's career has had multiple facets to it, most of which are tied directly to the support of higher education. As the father of the 529 plan, Peter helped write the legislation and he lobbied Congress for its passage. Peter is considered to be one of the nation's foremost experts in college saving and financing. And Salem State, as President Keenan mentioned, was fortunate to have him early on as our first Vice President of External Affairs and Development, where he planted the fundraising and alumni seeds. Peter has a BA from Harvard, as does Michael Harrington, and both are very involved with the Harvard Club of the North Shore. So it's on behalf of the Harvard Club of the North Shore that Peter is going to say a few words. Peter?
Thank you, Cynthia. It's been a pleasure to work with Cynthia because she was an intern like many of you. And then she went from intern to colleague to the co-founder of the Salem State College Series. And that's what interns do. They work and they step up and make a difference, whether it's actual positions in Congress or in society. So I just want to commend obviously Salem State, the faculty, Michael Harrington for this remarkable internship program. When I was here, there was no internship program. We tried to establish a public policy institute. Cynthia and I, she wrote a grant the S&H Green Stamps Foundation. And as a result of that grant, we were able to establish a public policy institute, which invited people like two national security advisors, ambassadors from Nicaragua, John Kenneth Galbraith, to create that dialogue to inspire students. But that's not enough. What is enough certainly is these internship experiences, because I've had the opportunity to lobby in Congress for the last 20 years, and I realized that it's the interns, the staff members that make policy decisions. It's not necessarily elected officials. But nonetheless, I'm not here to talk about politics and the political process. I'm here to make a contribution in honor of Michael Harrington from the Harvard Club of the North Shore. Now, I just want to let you know that we welcome you to the headquarters of the Harvard Club of the North Shore, which is... So when it was dormant, I was asked to help reestablish the club. I sent out a letter inviting all alumni to come. There were only 3 of us that came at the King's Grant and Michael at King's Grant. And Michael was there. Remember that, Mike? Just the 3 of us. So Michael, I think, felt bad for me, and he said, well, you can use my hotel. I'll fund the program. And as a result of that commitment, we now have a vibrant club. And the other Harvard Salem State connection is our most recent past president, who just left office 2 weeks ago, is Rod Kessler, a faculty member at Salem State, and we have many other members. So there's close ties between us, and we're anchored out of Salem. But Michael, you've been the go-to guy for many generations, many programs, and on behalf of the Harvard Club of the North Shore, we'd like to make a contribution to your endowment fund, and frankly, from the board, it's in recognition and memory of Dorothy. So thank you so much for your service to not just the Harvard Club, but to all of us and all these generations, and certainly to the country, because you spoke up when it was time to speak up, and you took on the Nixon administration, you took on, the CIA and the mess that they created in South America. So thank you so much, and look forward to continue working with you, Michael. Thank you all.
And now I'd like to introduce four congressional interns who have participated in the program in Washington, D.C. We have Matt Frank. I ask you to please join me at the podium. Matt Frank, who was the first student under the Kerry Internship Program. Elizabeth Cabral, who interned for both Senator Warren and Senator Markey in 2016. Cassidy O'Connor, who interned for Congressman Richie Neal in 2022, and Christine Belitsky, who interned for Senator Warren in 2022. And each will spend a few minutes describing their experience as interns. Thank you.
I guess I'll go first by the simple matter of fact, my name was first on here. My name is Matt Frank. I come to you from Chelsea. You might recognize us from the tail of the gerrymander sign that's outside. I also come to you from a different time. I see most of the interns around me are younger. I'm from '05. I was actually in classes with Joan Lovely. I know she had to leave, but she was a very good student, by the way. Back when I was an intern, the school's a different name now. The department has a different name. I think it's in a different place. And there's some different people, but there's some really familiar faces. Professor Coughlin over here is the reason why I did this internship. I didn't think that I was capable of doing an internship like that. I couldn't afford it, definitely. I was going to school and working at night and working on weekends. And when I wasn't doing that, I was involved in my community, ironically being told I had to leave City Hall when I was protesting at City Hall by Kim Driscoll, who's now the Lieutenant Governor. But she did it so ever nicely. But that's why I think this internship is so important, because I didn't think I had those resources and I didn't think I had that ability. We were at the Mall of the UN and she basically pulled me aside, forced me into a corner and said, you need to apply for this thing. And I'm here now with you at 9 o'clock in the morning. So thank you, Professor Coughlin. It was an exciting internship. I feel like I learned so much. Like I said, it was a different time. You know, John Kerry was running for president that year. So we had about 35 interns, mostly Ivy Leaguers. And once again, like I said, we're going in. I didn't think that I was kind of up to that par. And when I got there, I said, this place prepared me more than most of them. They had to goof off and have a good time. Not all of them, but a good number of them. They were there for nepotism or for other reasons. I was prepared. We had an entire program built around getting me up there. I also knew I was carrying the shoulders of Salem State on my shoulders. So there was a little bit more of that, let's take this seriously. Now, 20 years later, I work for the Chelsea Housing Authority. Just going to make sure I stay on time here. I work for the Chelsea Housing Authority, and I do all of our special projects. And we're doing things that a lot of other housing authorities aren't because of things like that internship. I said, we need to think big. You know, if we don't have Wi-Fi for our students at our sites, because during the pandemic that was really important, we're now leading a state pilot for the entire state for that sort of thing, because I was in that room and I said, let's think big. And I remember that from John Kerry's office, from being in DC, seeing all these big projects and seeing people being able to do things. I said, why not a city like Chelsea? You know, as people might know, and like I said, I was a city councilor in Chelsea for 10 years, and now I work for the Housing Authority. I joined the city council 20 years after the city went bankrupt, and the Housing Authority 10 years after the unfortunate corruption. So none of that was my fault. But we've been in the process of rebuilding, and just like state universities, just like other places, people might not take you seriously until you stand up and say, I need to be taken seriously. All of these 20 interns, or plus, I guess if there was more, were being taken seriously because we demanded to be taken seriously, because this room gave us that power. Like I said, I do apologize. I'm not talking more about the actual internship, but it was 20 years ago. I forgot so much of it. What I do remember is going to John Tierney's office. He was congressman at the time. John Kerry wasn't spending much time with us because he was running for president. We only got a little bit of face time. And I really kind of wanted to just know more and just know more. His office immediately, a day after I contacted them, they said, come on down. John Tierney himself sat with me. This man's a congressman in DC in the middle of this. The Iraq War was happening at this time, for an hour, and sat with me, and we just talked. We talked about Salem State. We talked about Congress. We talked about what is possible and big ideas. And I think about that whenever somebody comes up to me. Like I said, as a former city councilor, as a high-level person at our housing authority, I go to these other conferences. I'm not as important as some other people that might be around, but sometimes I'm a little bit too busy. And I say to myself, well, what would people like John Tierney do? What would people like Elizabeth Coughlin do? What would people like the people that worked in John Kerry's office, like Mary Cunningham Tarr, who none of you would remember because she retired by the time you showed up, but she was their, not their chief of staff, their office manager. They would take the time. Even if they were busy, they took that time. So that's one thing I take from that internship more than anything else, is when someone comes up to you and says, I want to know more, how do I do more? You take that time. And it sounds like there's a lot of people at this table that do that too. So thank you guys so much. I hope the other interns can talk more about the actual internships. Like I said, I think I forgot more than I learned, but thank you so much.
Thank you. So if any of you remember me, my freshman year starting at Salem State, I was extremely shy, didn't really feel as though I had a voice, and didn't really know what my purpose was. I actually started undecided. And I always had interest in political science, and I really warrant the political science department for making me feel that I had a voice. I later graduated as a commencement speaker and student trustee of Salem State, so I definitely gained that voice. There was a lot of imposter syndrome, and Professor Jackman and Professor Levy, you guys really helped me to feel as if I was valued, had an opinion, and had a brain and something to share. So I was very antsy, and Professor Levy and I worked really hard on my application to intern for Senator Warren. And I will definitely say that was the best summer of my life. I spent my 21st birthday with Senator Warren, who sang me happy birthday, which is something I will never forget. But I got to work on some really important things. And as you mentioned, you were surrounded by Ivy League students and potentially didn't feel as if you fit in, but Salem State again gave me that voice. And I got to work on some very exciting things. I told the senator that I was interested in criminal justice reform. I got to go into meetings to discuss the school to prison pipeline and legalization of marijuana and so on and so forth, which was very exciting. One of my most notable projects was I was looking up and doing a lot of research and I didn't know at the time, for the senator, because that was the year I was there for the presidential election against Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. So very active time, very exciting time. And there was a Supreme Court nomination, and I was doing research for hours, and so the senator actually utilized some of the information that I had presented to them on the floor that day. So very exciting time. And that internship gave me even more of a voice where I ran for student trustee, felt that I could be the commencement speaker, and also was even on the presidential search committee helping to find John Keenan, which was right there. Thank you. So genuinely just gave me a voice, the best experience, and helped me to, even now, I am a human resources business partner for a consulting firm where I use strategy, policy every day in making sure I'm saying the right things and not saying anything incorrectly, and working very strategically. So I thank you all for that opportunity, giving me that voice and the overall experience. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Cassidy O'Connor. I just graduated recently. Sorry, my voice is all funky because of the air. But I just graduated in May with a BS in political science, and I owe so much of my success to the department specifically and from the support of all of them. I actually originally wasn't a political science major. I was in psychology, so I'm very sorry to Joanna, but I ditched your department. I'm very happy that I did. I actually wasn't planning to apply for the internship stipend or apply to any sort of internship like this at all, for the same reasons that Matt had said. I didn't think financially I would be able to do it. I didn't think I had the skill to do it. So I believe it was Professor Jackman that sort of encouraged me through that. And she also helped me through the application process and very gently alerted me to the fact that I was not spelling Congressman Neal's name right in my cover letter. So I'm very grateful for that as well. The summer that I interned, which was last summer, was also very eventful. Not that there's been like a dull moment in politics ever, probably. But I started working just a few weeks after the Dobbs decision. While I was there, they were working on the National Defense Authorization Act, which, for those of you that don't know, the original part of that bill had 1,200 amendments, which I, as the intern, read through every single amendment to pick out the ones that were important for Congressman Neal to know. That was also when the Inflation Reduction Act passed, which I know that Mike did a ton of work on, and that passed on my very last day as an intern, which was very exciting to sort of have that energy. As an intern, I did a lot of clerical work. I was sorting through mail. I was answering phone calls. We got a lot of phone calls. I was working the day after Mar-a-Lago was raided. So we got a ton of phone calls about that, even though I don't think Congressman Neal was connected to that in any way. But it really strengthened, I think, that my skills. I worked on campus sort of as an office assistant, so I already had some of those phone and like clerical skills. But this was different, dealing with the public, most of whom who were already sort of against me as they started talking to me. But it was very, very interesting. I think it was one of the best experiences of my life. I care a lot about public higher education and public higher education reform and making sure that everything's accessible for everybody. And that was something that I don't think that office had a lot of perspectives on. That I was the only person from a state school, including all of the staff. And it actually got to the point where everyone in the office was connected to the congressman in some way. And they were all very excellent workers. I loved working with them. But someone in the office actually asked me how I got the position. He was like, "Did you just call us and ask if you could apply?" And I was like, "Yes, that is exactly what I did." So there's definitely a disconnect. And I think there absolutely should be more people from state schools in offices like this. I mean, I don't want to... I don't want to overstate my own importance because I was an intern for like a month and a half, but I do think that that perspective is really important, especially for someone like Congressman Neal, who's been in Congress for so long. I think perspectives from sort of different demographics is really important. So Congressman Neal is out in the 1st District in Massachusetts, which is where I'm from. And whenever I say I'm from Western Mass, people here think I mean Worcester, and I'm an hour and a half past Worcester. So it is not Worcester. Yes. And so I got to work with my community. The people who were calling in were people from my neighborhood, which was fantastic. And I think that Western Mass sort of is left out of the conversation a lot when we're talking about Massachusetts. So that's something that I'm really excited to work more about in the future, is working for my own community and making sure that we're not left behind, because we're very different from Eastern Mass. So I think this internship definitely changed my life. Like I said, I wasn't going to apply for it. So it was sort of an unexpected surprise. And I can't wait to see how I can take those things going forward.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I'm also a recent grad. I graduated with Cassidy literally a couple of weeks ago. So as a political science student, when I came into the department, I did start as a poli-sci department member. I knew that there was 2 things I wanted to do at school. I wanted to do a congressional internship, and I wanted to study abroad. And I said, how am I going to do that? Because I knew right away I couldn't afford that. I knew DC prices were insane, and this was before inflation went crazy. And so I had absolutely no clue how I was going to accomplish the things I wanted to accomplish. I didn't know there was a congressional internship program when I came in. It had no bearing on why I decided to come to Salem State. So when I did find out there was one, I could have jumped for joy because it made it possible for me to achieve my dreams, to do what I wanted to do. And also I want to say that Mike Evans' class, which I took, the US Congress class, had such a huge impact on me really deciding to go to DC and do the internship, because I was a little iffy. I was like, well, I might not be able to afford it. Maybe I don't belong there. Like things that we all kind of echo, this like imposter syndrome, you know. But I learned so much in your class. I still remember all of it. And then I was like, okay, maybe I can do this. You know, I have the knowledge now. I have the stipend. I have the money. I can do this. But I still was like, but Senator Warren's a really competitive place. You know, I don't know if I'm going to get there. And so Professor Jackman's encouragement really helped with that. Mike Evans, you really helped with the application process. I'm so grateful to all of you. And I learned so much. You know, when you're as a political science student, you think, oh, I know how government works. I know the different branches of government. You know, I can explain that kind of stuff. But then you get there and you're like, well, what is the cloakroom? Like, where is the cloakroom? And so there's so much that I learned when I was actually there. It really changed the way that I think about government. It changed the way I think about politics. It changed my career path. I want to go back down to DC. I want to work in government on the Hill or around the Hill. And there's this idea as an intern that you kind of do all the grunt work, right? You answer the phones, you sort the mail. But I found that I learned so much just through those simple tasks, whether it's how to format a bill that has to be filed or just like the issues that people are willing to call their senator about, whether it's crazy issues or real issues, you know. And so I also found I could affect change more directly. All it took for me was one memo and talking to like 2 staffers for the senator to co-sponsor a bill that I was really passionate about. And so having that experience, being able to affect change so directly in an office, it really made me want to go back and do it again and keep doing it. And there's so much more that I know I could learn. There's so much more I know that I could do down there. And I wouldn't know that without the stipend. I wouldn't know that without this internship experience. And so I'm really grateful to the department. I'm grateful to everyone here who funds this stipend, because it allows people like us to do something that we might not otherwise get the chance to do. So thank you to everybody. I really appreciate it.
So these are just some of the 30 or so students who represented Salem State so well on Capitol Hill. And we learned through this internship, perhaps most importantly, that we can do this and that we can compete and thrive. Our most recent congressional internship recipient, Jessie Wilson, couldn't be with us today because this week she began her internship with Congressman Jim McGovern in Washington, D.C. Cynthia?
Well, it is my great pleasure this morning to be able to introduce Rich Levy. Rich and I worked together 20 years ago on this internship, and he was truly the foundation upon which the program was built. So, in order to honor the work of now retired from Salem State, I don't think he's retired from life in any way, shape, or form, but Professor Rich Levy, the Department of Politics, Policy, and International Relations in 2020 renamed the DC Internship Program as the Rich Levy Congressional Internship Program. Let me just tell you a little bit about him. So as faculty, department chair, intern coordinator, Rich for more than 26 years inspired Salem State students and his colleagues to make a difference through public service, advocacy, education, and community involvement. In addition to his contributions as an educator and a China scholar, Rich epitomizes Salem State's commitment to civic engagement. As a former community organizer in Boston's Chinese community, a Massachusetts Department of Education official, a local elected official, and a director of a social justice research center, Rich continues to provide leadership for public higher education funding and equity through the Campus Debt Reveal Project, through MSCA, which is the Massachusetts State College Authority? No, Association, sorry. Unfortunately, I was never a member of it. Educators for a Democratic Union, and his advocacy for Fair Share Amendment, Cherish Act, and Debt-Free Higher Education Bill. So I'd like to ask Professor Rich Levy to please come to the podium and share some thoughts with us.
Thank you, Cynthia. You just did half of my talk where I was going to talk about what I've done, but that's good. I've always learned repetition in different forms is a good thing. I want to thank everybody who's here, past and future interns, friends, students, faculty, all folks who've taken time of your own to come here and participate in this, and potential supporters of the program. I'd also actually like to thank Jennifer Jackman for the incredible work she's done on pushing this program further and expanding it and doing really wonderful things with it. You had mentioned that the program was named after me. I got not a phone call, I got an email saying, "Are you still alive?" Because they usually name them after you're not. So by responding to that email, the implication was yes, I was still alive. But I also wanted to mention when this happened, I had retired, it was COVID, something was going to happen. I figured, we'd get a nice luncheon, people would say thank you, that would be dandy. And instead, they mentioned they were renaming this program after me, which was very moving and very appreciated. So I thank the institution, I thank particularly the department people, and I thank all of the interns who made the program what it is, because it's no fun to have a program that doesn't work. And what people have all said is the other thing that I got most out of working with people was people saying, I went there and I was looking over my shoulder because I was from Salem State and they were all from Yale and Harvard. And by the time I left, I wasn't looking over my shoulder anymore. I knew I could do what they could do. And that is an incredible accomplishment of you folks and of this program. So I really want to acknowledge that and acknowledge the life-changing effect that this program has, and its effect on civic engagement, even for those who don't go on. If you have an internship and you say, I did that for 9 weeks and I hated it, I know I don't want to do that again. That's a learning experience, right? And you take skills and use them elsewhere. Success doesn't, as John said, sometimes you win, sometimes you don't, and you still keep going. So I want to acknowledge, not that anybody here wasn't successful, but I want to acknowledge that there are different avenues. The internship is really a dual opportunity. It opens multiple paths for increasing activism and civic engagement. And civic engagement is really one of the focuses of Salem State. And that's particularly important for more civic engagement, as we're living in an increasingly challenged democracy. And we have the example of two of our most recent interns, Cass and Christine, who played a significant role in advocating for the first freeze on fees, in a long time for Salem State. And that's critical because we have to try and move the school to be, and all public universities, to be more affordable. And it opens multiple career paths. We've heard where people are, and they're not all in politics, but a bunch of them are. But this opens both citizenship and it opens employment tasks, roads. And similarly, I was in political science as an undergrad, and a lot of people say, I see John smiling, what are you ever going to do with a political science career? How are you going to get a job? Well, I had 7 different careers, all of which drew on it, most of which Cynthia's already mentioned. And I drew on different aspects of it. I was teaching and managed a bilingual program in Chinatown for speakers of English, of other languages, teaching English. And that was also a community organizing program. I worked in the Bureau of Adult Education in the Mass Department of Education, restructuring adult education with Bob Bickerton back there, who was the head of that bureau at that time. I was executive director of Political Research Associates in Cambridge and Somerville at the time, and a professor here for 20 odd years, some odder than others. And most recently, I'm failing, as Jennifer has told me, I'm failing retirement because I'm doing more hours than I did then, which was a bunch, working both with the Mass Teachers Association and the Mass State College Association. And the stuff that's going on there is really linked because without the funds that could be raised today, students who are going to be in these internships who are working 2 to 3 jobs just to get through school would not be able to take advantage of this internship. You know, the fee increase that the board just passed, not increase, anti-increase. Sorry, gotta get my words right. The fee freeze that the board passed 2 days ago, I believe, right, is a step in that direction of making it more affordable. And we have to continue to reduce that pressure. Any funding that you contribute is going to make this program more accessible for students for whom it can be a life-changing experience. At the same time, it's really important that you also do what you can. Contact your legislators. Support the Cherish Act. The Cherish Act will give us long-term stable funding, not just at Salem State, but across the Commonwealth. You know, that will make it possible as we go on, plus the debt-free, for students to come and not be working 2 and 3 jobs, for them to be able to focus on their education. That it'll be able to be accessed by people regardless of income. They'll be able to become civically engaged citizens and productive members of our economy as well. Any donation you can give will be great. To the extent that we get the funding from the Cherish Act, that will make yours even more useful because it'll build on a more stable long-term future going forward. You know, right now, remember, students graduating from public universities in Massachusetts not only have gone through 4, 5, or 6 years of school and working, but are carrying $33,000 as an average debt that will take them 20 years to pay off, right? I see people nodding their heads because they're there. This is a collective thing. We're doing both of it, all of it together. So I really appreciate what the interns have done, what the faculty have done, what Jennifer has done. And I appreciate whatever support you're able to give this program because it really builds a unique opportunity that can be really life-changing, not just for the people who get it, but for the people whose lives are affected by the people who get it. Thank you very much.